The day my parents threw me out of the house, my mom smiled. It was my sister's 17th birthday, and all she'd asked for was my room. I stood on the lawn, watching my entire life get packed into trash bags, and realized the one person I thought was on my side had just sold me out for a bigger closet. My name is Maya. My dad is black, my mom is white, and I came out with my dad's deep complexion and tight curls. My sister, Sophia, took after my mom, fair-skinned with straight, honey blonde hair. That single genetic lottery decided everything. Growing up, I learned the rules quickly. Sophia's birthdays were week-long festivals with presents stacked to the ceiling. Mine were forgotten until the day after, met with a shrug and a "we'll get to it next week, sweetie," that never came. Dad, who should have understood, was the worst. He'd call me his little shadow in a voice that wasn't warm but cold. Mom's racism was quieter, a series of backhanded compliments about how well I spoke or how neat my hair was when she forced it into tight braids. Our house was a beautiful two-story prison, and I was the inmate everyone pretended not to see. The only guard who ever showed me kindness was Sophia. She'd sneak me slices of her birthday cake, tell our parents it was her report card they should be proud of when I brought home A's. And once, she even took the blame for a vase I broke, enduring a silent treatment that lasted for days. She was my secret ally, my best friend. I thought it was us against them. I was wrong. The eviction was a military operation. I woke up to the sound of my dad and uncle hauling my desk down the stairs. My mom stood in the doorway of my room, Sophia's new room, directing traffic with a chilling efficiency. "Just the clothes and the school books for now," she said, not even looking at me. "We can donate the rest of this junk later." I stood frozen in my pajamas. Where am I supposed to go? My voice was a thin, reedy thing I barely recognized. My mom finally turned, and that's when she grinned. It was a sharp little triumphant smile. "You're a resourceful girl, Maya. You'll figure it out." Then she said the word, the one my dad had started using as a joke, the one that made my skin crawl. "Figure it out, Smokey." My eyes shot to Sophia. She was hovering behind my mom, clutching a new velvet pillow to her chest. She wouldn't meet my gaze. Her shoulders were hunched, her entire body rigid with a guilt so palpable I could almost taste it. I begged her with my eyes, but she just stared at a fixed point on the wall. The betrayal wasn't just in the act, it was in her silence. The one person who saw me had now agreed to erase me. Numbness is a superpower. It let me walk out of that house, my arms full of lumpy trash bags, and not shatter on the spot. The sound of the door closing behind me was the loudest, most final sound I'd ever heard. On the curb, I fumbled with my phone, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely bile. The only person I could think to call was my aunt on my dad's side, Clara. I braced for a rejection that would finally break me, but Aunt Clara answered on the second ring. "Maya, honey, is everything okay?" I couldn't form words, just a choked, gasping sob. "That's all I need to hear," she said, her voice instantly firm and warm. "Text me your address. I'm in the car now. You're coming home with me." I didn't wait for an Uber. I just started walking, the bags cutting into my arms, not caring about the stairs. I was a block away when my phone buzzed. Sophia. The screen flashed with her name, and a hot, sick hatred boiled up in my throat. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, the words rushing out in a wet sob. "Please don't hate me." I said nothing. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. "Are you alone right now?" she asked, her voice dropping even lower. "Yeah," I managed to grit out. She didn't reply. Instead, the screen switched to a FaceTime video. It was shaky at first, then focused. A white stick resting on the edge of a sink. Two solid pink lines. The world tilted. "Sophia!" I breathed, the anger in my voice replaced by pure, cold fear. "It's mine," she whispered, her face pale and streaked with tears on the small screen. "I'm 8 weeks. I couldn't tell them. You know what they'll do. I didn't want you there when it all blew up." I did know. I remembered with painful clarity the time she'd come home with a C on a math test. My parents had turned on me, screaming about how my bad attitude was rubbing off on her, how I was dragging her down. A pregnancy? It would be a nuclear war, and I would be ground zero for the blame. All the hurt from an hour ago morphed into a fierce protective dread. "Sophia, what can I do?" I asked, my voice steady for the first time that day. "Aunt Clara," she pleaded, her words tumbling out in a rushed whisper. "Can you ask her if she'll help me? Please, Maya. I have no one else." In the background, I could hear the faint sound of my parents laughing, moving up the stairs. "They're coming," now, she hissed, and the screen went black. I stood there on the sidewalk, my life in trash bags at my feet. The ghost of those 2 pink lines burned into my mind. My sister hadn't betrayed me out of malice. She had thrown me a life preserver, pushing me out of the way of a tsunami she saw coming. Aunt Clara's apartment was a small, warm sanctuary that smelled like lavender and old books. She opened the door, took one look at my shattered face and the garbage bags I was clutching, and pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "Oh, my girl, you're safe now." I didn't have to explain. She just knew. She ushered me inside, took the bags, and sat me down at her kitchen table with a mug of sweet, milky tea. The kindness was so foreign, it felt like a physical ache. We were in the middle of a stilted, polite conversation about school when the words just erupted from me, raw and unedited. "My parents are racist, and my sister is pregnant." Aunt Clara blinked, then let out a short, startled laugh, thinking it was a bad joke. That's when I broke. The dam holding back 7 months of confusion, fear, and a lifetime of neglect finally burst. I sobbed, unloading everything: the forgotten birthdays, the cruel nicknames, the way they packed my things without a flicker of remorse. She listened, her face growing darker and grimmer with each confession. When I finished, she made me promise I would stay, and then she made a promise of her own. "They are not going to get away with this, Maya." Her voice was low and steady, a vow. "Your father is about to have a very unpleasant conversation with his big sister." The phone call was a quiet, brutal thing. I sat on the edge of the spare bed, listening to Aunt Clara's low, stilly voice through the wall. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. The tone was enough, a controlled demolition of my father's excuses. She came back into the room, her mouth a thin, tight line. "He claims they merely suggested you might want more space," she said, her voice dripping with a disdain I'd never heard from her before. "He said you were always a dramatic child." A hollow laugh escaped me. "They threw my mattress out on the lawn." "I know," she said, sitting beside me, "but here's what's going to happen. You are staying here, permanently if you want, and we are going to have a family meeting. They need to look you in the eye and answer for what they've done." My stomach twisted into a knot at the thought. She must have seen the panic on my face because she gently added, "But not yet. First, we get you settled. And I have a feeling there's something else you need to ask me." I took a shaky breath. "Sophia, she wants to know if she can come over to talk to you about her situation." Aunt Clara's expression softened. "Of course she can. Tell her to come tomorrow. She shouldn't have to face this alone." The next afternoon, Sophia stood in Aunt Clara's doorway, looking like a ghost of herself. The vibrant, confident sister I knew was gone, replaced by a pale, trembling girl who flinched at the sound of a car door slamming outside. We hugged in the doorway, a long, silent embrace where all our hurt and fear passed between us. "They think I'm at the library," she whispered, her voice thin and frayed. "But Mom, she keeps looking at my stomach. She asked if my jeans were feeling tight." Her eyes welled with fresh tears. "I'm so scared, Maya." Before I could answer, the lock turned. Aunt Clara walked in, still in her work clothes, her keys jangling. She took one look at Sophia's shattered expression and opened her arms without a word. Sophia crumbled against her, great, heaving sobs shaking her small frame. Later, curled on the couch, with cups of tea nobody was drinking, it all came out. The father was Ben, a quiet boy from her art class. His parents were strict, traditional. "If they find out, they'll send him away," she cried. "They'll blame me. Everyone will blame me." Aunt Clara listened, her hand resting gently on Sophia's knee. When the storm of tears subsided, she asked the quiet, monumental question. "Sophia, honey," she said, her voice impossibly gentle, "what do you want to do?" Sophia looked down at her hands clenched in her lap. "I don't know," she whispered. "I'm so scared, but I think I want to keep it." The silence in the room was heavy, full of the weight of that confession. I reached out and squeezed Sophia's hand. It was ice cold. "Okay," Aunt Clara said, her voice calm and steady, a rock in the churning sea of our panic. "Then that's what we'll prepare for. The first thing you need is a doctor's appointment. I can take you." The relief on Sophia's face was so profound, it was painful to see. "You'd do that?" she whispered. "I would," Aunt Clara said. "And whatever you decide from this moment on, you have a team. Me and your sister. You are not alone in this." It was a fragile new alliance, forged in secrecy and fear, but it was solid. For the first time, we had a plan, an adult in our corner. The illusion of our parents' control had cracked. We spent the rest of the evening in a bubble of quiet normalcy at Aunt Clara's, a temporary ceasefire from the war waiting for us at home. But wars have a way of finding you. The call came 3 days later. Sophia's voice was a high, thin wire of pure panic. "She found the prenatal vitamins," she gasped, barely coherent. "She put it all together. Mom knows, Maya. She knows everything." In the background, I could hear the muffled, furious roar of my father's voice, then a sharp, loud bang, a fist pounding on a door. "Sophia, you open this door right now," my mother screamed. "They're going to kill me," Sophia sobbed into the phone. Aunt Clara, who was listening, was already on her feet, car keys in hand. "We're coming. Get your things." Returning to that house felt like walking back into a nightmare. The perfectly manicured lawn, the cheerful yellow paint. It was all a lie. Through the front window, I could see the shadow of my father pacing like a caged animal. Aunt Lara told me to wait in the car. I refused. "She's my sister," I said, my voice trembling but firm. We didn't knock. Aunt Clara turned the knob and we walked right into the eye of the storm. The air in the entryway was thick with rage. My father spun around, his face a mask of fury that faltered for a second when he saw his sister. "Clara, what is the meaning of this?" he boomed. "We're here for Sophia," Aunt Clara stated, her voice like ice. "This is a private family matter," my mother cried, stepping out from behind him, her face blotchy and distorted. "You need to leave. I am family," Aunt Clara shot back, not moving an inch. "And so was Maya, a fact you seem to have conveniently forgotten. Now where is she?" Before they could answer, I darted up the stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. I knocked softly on Sophia's door. "It's me. Open up." The lock clicked. Sophia's terrified face appeared in the crack before she pulls me inside and clung to me. "He said he'd throw me out if I don't get rid of it," she whispered, her body shaking violently. "Pack a bag," I told her, my own fear hardening into resolve. "You're not staying here." We came back down the stairs together, Sophia clutching her duffel bag. The confrontation that followed was short and brutal. "You can't take her. She's a minor," my father snarled. Aunt Clara didn't even raise her voice. "Try and stop me. Or better yet, let's call Child Protective Services, and I can tell them all about the environment you've created for your daughters, starting with why you kicked one out and are now trying to force the other into a medical procedure against her will." The color drained from my father's face. My mother stared, her mouth agape. For the first time in my life, I saw the invincible wall of their authority develop a crack. "Fine," my father finally gritted out, the word tasting like ash. "But this isn't over." "Oh, it's only just begun," Aunt Clara said, herding us toward the door. The confrontation in Aunt Clara's small apartment was the final, ugly unraveling. My parents, armed with a spare key from a forgotten vacation, stood in her living room as if they had any right to be there. Their demands for Sophia to return home, their claims that they only wanted what was best, rang hollow and desperate. But this time, we weren't alone. This time, Sophia stood her ground, her voice trembling but clear. "I'm not going anywhere with you. Not until you accept that this is my decision to make." "We love you," my mother pleaded, her tears now seeming real, born of a dawning, horrifying powerlessness. "Do you?" I asked, the question ripping from a place deep inside me I'd locked away. "Do you love me?" The silence that followed was the answer to a lifetime of questions. My father's shoulders slumped. My mother looked at me, truly looked at me, and I saw a flicker of something beyond her own self-interest. a glimpse of shame. That silence was the beginning. It was the crack through which the hard, painful light of truth finally started to seep in. It wasn't a happy ending. It was a messy, complicated, and painful beginning. But for the first time, standing there with my sister and my aunt, I knew it was a beginning we would face together, no longer as victims in their story, but as the authors of our own.